Okay, welcome everyone. Tonight we have Caitlin Cloven, and she is going to be doing a presentation on digital communications. So I'm going to turn it over to her, and she can tell you just a little bit more about herself and then get underway.
Hi, everybody. I'm Caitlin Cloven. I am the social media director and digital communications director for Spike Cohen right now. I'm also the communications director for Vermin Supreme and the Vermin Supreme Institute. I have several campaigns that I'm working on. I'm the campaign manager for Sasha Cohen for city clerk in DeKalb, Illinois right now. And a possible governor campaign I can't quite announce yet, but super exciting stuff. I'm going to get my screen started sharing now. Okay, so today I'm just going to talk about digital and social media marketing. My biggest focus is social media marketing, although I do like all of digital marketing as a whole. My specialty is politics. I do like some business stuff occasionally, but mostly politics, which is why you're all here, so it works out. So just first, a little about me. I became involved in the Liberty Movement in 2016 after watching Dakota Access Pipeline injustices. I kind of dove right in and joined Facebook groups, which was, in retrospect, maybe not the greatest thing to learn about libertarians. I'm not exactly known for being so nice on the internet, but it worked out because I started running meme pages and then figured out that I was kind of meant to do this. So over the last 5 years, I've created, managed, directed, and grown the digital presence of countless brands, causes, and candidates. I've been editor-in-chief of 2 major publications, created and led teams for direct activism initiatives, consulted and staffed dozens of political campaigns, and most recently, I was the social media director for Joe Jorgensen until July, and then Spike Cohen until the election. And I'm still continuing as Spike Cohen's digital communications director. I'm a sitting council member of the Vermin Supreme Institute, and I'm the digital communications director for Vermin Supreme. I started a consulting firm for political marketing strategy and organization, and I actually offer free digital marketing training courses for anyone in the LP for free, like completely. I don't ever sell anything there. Here is my contact information. You can all add me on Facebook, Twitter. I don't do a lot of like professional stuff on Twitter. I cyberbully government officials on there. So, yep, there's my email, caitlin@spikecohen.com. And here's the things I do. So I do social media management, organic and social media marketing. So management, marketing, totally different things. Digital and social advertising, SEO and web management, campaign organization, workflow process engineering, and content marketing. So today I'm going to keep the presentation itself like kind of short. I really just want to talk about like some basic concepts, and then we'll get into the Q&A, and I can expand on these things a little more, just because it's such a big, robust topic that it's hard to put into presentation form. So we'll just kind of go over the overview and concepts, and then optimizing your campaign with framework and the tools, and then how to implement. So digital marketing, it's a huge industry, and no matter like where you Google or whatever, you're going to get 1,000 different answers for like different types. I've reduced it to like very simple groups. So there's social media, there's advertising. So social media, it can be organic or paid. So advertising is kind of its own thing. And there's content marketing. Content marketing kind of spans all the different types of marketing. So your content marketing is like your driving force behind everything. And then you have email marketing, which is super important and underutilized quite a bit. You have SEO, which is your search engine optimization. So it sounds scary, it sounds really complicated, but it's very easy. Basically using keywords and like different strategies, and you can learn how to do this. You can move your content, whether it's on a blog, whether it's social media, you can move that to the top of your Google results whenever people are searching. And then you have affiliate and influencer marketing, which is kind of a catch-all term for word of mouth and like collaborating with different organizations and people, and then using people with large followings to spread the word about you and your brand or your candidacy or whatever. So the getting started checklist, whether you already have your social media stuff in place or whether you are just getting started, these are good ways to kind of optimize your output. So first, you're going to identify your objectives and establish your goals. So what I mean by identify objectives, like what do you want to accomplish with your digital presence, basically? What do you want people to know about you? What do you want them to, what do you want their actions to be? And then you establish your goals. So you taking those objectives and then establishing like very clear goals of where you want to be. You can do those goals in 3, 6, or 12-month intervals. I usually do all 3. And then after that, you can research your target audiences. So you know your objectives, you know your goals. Who are you talking to? Like, who are you trying to reach? With candidates, that's obviously voters in your district. And then you take, that voters and then you segment that down. Like, I want to reach people 18 to 25. I want to reach, women who care about this one issue. You take those and you put them in buckets, basically. And then you can alter your messaging strategy towards who you're talking to. I can get into that a little bit later in the Q&A. And then after you research your target audiences, find out everything you possibly can about them, you gather your resources, form a team, and put your tools in place. I cannot stress how important it is to have a team that's good, a team that works together. I know it is the LP, but a team without drama is preferable. And it's very easy to do. Like once you have a good framework, you have all your tools in place, you have your resources, getting people in the right positions, everything just kind of falls into place. After you have your team and everything ready, you want to establish a voice. So you don't want what people take away from your brand or your digital presence to be, this is kind of all over the place, I don't know what it's about. You have to establish like your branding, your voice, how you want to be represented, basically, especially if you have multiple people on your accounts. There's a lot of trust involved with having somebody on your social media accounts, especially if you're a candidate. You want to make sure that you trust that person implicitly because they're speaking as you, and no matter what happens, you are responsible for whatever that person says. So establishing that voice, making it very clear what you want to be seen as, what you want to be known for, is super important. And then workflow, that is the second or the third part of that. So your workflow is like your ideas. How do you get your ideas to like output, basically? So you're going to have an idea, it's going to have to go through all of these different processes, and then eventually it will become like public output. But you have to establish all of those processes, and it's a trial and error basis. It depends on the people that you have on your team. It depends on how big your team is, the tools that you have, your budget. But you just kind of play with it and see what works, and making sure you have those processes established and well documented will make the future much easier for you. Next, you want to build an asset library, because you can't have consistent content output without having all of your stuff together in one place. So your headshots and your like graphic templates, your branding guides, your logos, everything, you want to put that in a central place. My favorite tool is Brandfolder, although that is really expensive. If you can do Brandfolder, a simple Google Drive or a Dropbox or something is totally good. Like, I've used all of those and they work fine. After you have all of that together, you're going to want to develop responses for public relations. So how do you respond when there is a national crisis? What are you going to do? What are you going to say? What's the tone of your response? If there's something that happens, like let's say a scandal broke about you as a candidate, like, hey, this person did this thing 5 years ago, how are you going to respond to that? That's a super important thing to do. Just formulating your responses to different things that are going to happen within public relations. It will make your job a lot easier. Now, digital marketing here. So basically digital marketing refers to any online marketing efforts or assets. Social media marketing can be broken down into two categories, paid and organic. You're going to get so much bang for your buck with organic because it's free. It's wonderful. I love organic. I specialize in organic social media marketing. There's so many tricks and tips out there to make your organic game like just straight fire. Actually don't do paid social media stuff that often at all. Like I know how to do the backend ad management, but the vast majority of the things that I do with my accounts is all organic. So content marketing, like I said, is the driving force behind a good digital media strategy, and it's often the most ignored. Not a lot of people talk about content marketing, but it's basically the things you talk about and the way that you talk about them and the words that you use and the people that you're targeting, all of that into one strategy to make whatever you're saying the most impactful. And you're going to tailor a very simple single message in 25 different ways on all these different platforms. And you're saying the same thing, but you're not. It's still resonating with different audiences in different ways. And that's how you grow. Like that's the backbone of a good organic game. That's backbone of a good paid game. That's backbone of everything. So you have to know content marketing or find somebody who knows content marketing. Because if you don't have good content marketing, you're not going to have any return on investment. Now, next, always have a goal in mind when you're launching digital marketing. Like I said in the very beginning, that's the first thing you do is you set your goals, you set your objectives, figure out what you want to do, and then set your key performance indicators, which is also known as KPIs. That's the different fields in which you measure like your return on investment, you measure your success, you measure your statistics and benchmarks and all of that. And then track your data. Not a lot of people use data. In my experience in the Liberty Movement, it's super, super important, and a lot of it is free. And I'm not talking about like voter data, any of that. Like you can do keyword research, you can do Google Trends is completely free, and you can figure out like if you want to talk about criminal justice or something, you can look at all of the different keywords associated with criminal justice to where if you're using let's say, for example, actually, that's a bad example. But okay, but if you're doing criminal justice, then you would pick a couple words that are really popular that go with criminal justice that people use a lot. And if you sprinkle those little keywords in the messages you're putting out on social media and your blog and everything else, then you're going to pop up higher and higher on Google results. And you're going to get more eyes on your content. You're going to get more engagement. You're going to get more people sharing your stuff and liking and talking in your comment sections and fostering like as much conversation as you can start on your post, the better, because that means the more eyes are going to get on it. It's going to trigger all these algorithms and you're going to rise very quickly. Now, if you have a small or non-existent budget, which most people do, the three main focus areas for digital marketing you'll see the highest return on investment are organic social media, website and SEO, and email marketing. Now, after this, I'm going to send out like a ton of resources. So it's actually going to be in the Facebook event that I'm going to drop this. And then I'm also going to send out an email to people who have signed up on the emails, which I'll also drop a link to do that. Now, here's your toolkit. It is not exhaustive in any way whatsoever, but it's just a good thing to jot down so you can look into these things and get the best tools that you need for your team. Google Drive, Dropbox, and asset managers. One of them I mentioned was Brandfolder. That's the expensive one, but there's, Google Drive and Dropbox are totally free. I mean, you can upgrade Dropbox, but the free one's fine. And then social listening, brand reputation management system. Now, there's programs out there that you can sign up for. Like some of them are free, some of them are like $20 a month. The one I use is like $100 a month, but basically what they do is they scour the web for any mentions of your name or any keywords that you set up to track any of these kinds of things, and it will give you a ton of data. First, it will like list out everyone who's mentioning you. It will parse that out into like okay, these people are really popular and they're talking about you, so you should probably jump in there and, get all these followers. Or this person over here said something negative about you, then you can decide whether to respond or not. But social listening and brand reputation is excellent because that's your ears, because you can't be everywhere on the internet. It's too big. And then Facebook and Twitter Business Manager. These are completely free and they're built into Facebook and Twitter. I will have full guides on Facebook and Twitter Business Managers that I'll give out to everybody as well. And then a team communications platform. So Facebook groups, they're okay. I used them for a long time. You kind of grow out of them after a while though. Right now, like I just started using Fleep and I really love it. You can also use Slack. Fleep is Slack without the hassle, in my opinion. I'm not a huge Slack fan. I really, really don't like Slack at all. But Fleep is like that. So there's Fleep, there's Slack, there's all kinds, like I use a Discord server for Spike's team that works really well because if we're working on something, we can just hop on a voice channel, work on it, and then just hop off. It's no big deal. Anywhere you can have information that doesn't get lost is most important. Somewhere to quickly communicate, somewhere to store information that people need to do their jobs. But as long as you can communicate with your team, it's probably a good platform. And then you need Google AdWords, Google AdSense, and Google Analytics, especially if you have a website. These are super important. They're all free and it will give you a ton of information. And then a workspace platform. So you have your communications, that's great, but not always is the communications platform going to be really good for like information workflow and working on, collaboration and basically your workspace. So I use Airtable. I love Airtable and I can get a lot out of the free version of Airtable. It does get expensive if you get into paid stuff, but you can get around that so easy. Trello is another one that it has a paid version, but I used it for 4 years without using paid and it worked completely fine. And I had a team of 50 people, so it works. But Airtable, Asana, Monday, Trello, there's tons of those. It's a really good collaborative team workspace. And then you need a social media content scheduler and a social media analytics tracker. Usually those come together in the same program. You have Buffer, Hootsuite. I use Sendable. I just found Sendable about a month or two ago. I love it so much because it also prepares your analytics reports. It has built-in like RSS feeds for content curation. It has all kinds of amazing stuff. But Sendable, Buffer, Hootsuite. Buffer is totally free and it's great. I used it for a really long time with no problems. I just ended up needing a lot more out of it. And then you need email marketing. MailChimp is good. Nation Builder, there's mixed feelings on Nation Builder, and I understand that, but it is still a good platform. Anything that you can use to automate your emails, build out your emails, and have like a CRM of your emails, because email marketing is so important, and I cannot stress that enough. So these are good tools, and then that's all I have for my presentation. But I'm just going to open it up into Q&A.
Okay, if anyone has any questions, just feel free to either type your questions in the chat or unmute yourself and you can just jump in and ask your question.
What would be a good goal as far as growing your social media platform per month?
It really depends on your audience and like I know you're running for office, so figure out like, the district you're in, the population. Growth really isn't the biggest KPI that you want to track. It's more like your engagement rates. So if you look in your Facebook analytics, you can look at like how many people are engaging with your content, how many people are liking, how many people are commenting and sharing. Creating those conversations is really good. Now growth is good because the more growth you have, the more engagement you'll have. But I would say for a local rate, 100 a month would be good. But that also, it just really depends.
be in the hospital.
Would a growth be or a size be a good good thing as far as how viable people outside people without the part outside of the party will see your campaign?
Mhm. I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question. What were you asking?
I mean, one of the problems people have with third parties is they don't think they're viable.
Right, right.
I mean, and that's the goal. Yes, I want the engagements because that's going to make a difference in votes. But for me, the growth is very important because I feel that that is how people are going to judge the viability of your campaign. So, say the Democratic Party in my district only has 875 likes. Well, if I pass that, well, now people are going to figure, hey, this guy is more viable because, hell, he's got more likes than the Democrats.
Yeah, definitely. So it does play a factor with your viability. It does play a factor with, I guess, your reputation. What's most important is that the likes that you have, especially on a candidate page, and really this only applies to candidate pages, is that they're in your district. So you don't want to get a lot of likes that are outside of your district because it dilutes actually your algorithm. So a good metric to keep in mind is only 10% of your page followers are going to see each post. So if you have 60% of your page followers that are out of district, then only like 6% of people who are seeing your post are actually in your district. My math's probably messed up there, but you understand the concept. It dilutes your audience, and you want to have the most impact in your district because that's what you're using social media for, is to get votes, to get your name out there, to make an impact. So if your growth is really high and steady, and I mean that has definitely like a lot of impact on people, how people view you, but you also have to balance that with people in your district. So if you live in a rural district, your growth probably isn't going to be super high, but you can still do a lot of things to make sure your growth is up there. So sharing your page posts into local Facebook groups, your buy sell groups, your community, let's talk about what's going on in this town kind of groups, anything related to your district, share your stuff in there and share it with a question. Ask a lot of questions that will get people on there. I wouldn't share a lot of like edgy content just because it's going to make people mad, and it doesn't have as big of a like return on investment as a lot of people think it does. So
Okay, we have one question in the chat. How far in advance would you suggest that candidates have their social media strategy together?
as soon as humanly possible. Yep. Now, in the early days of a campaign, and this is important, you don't want to go balls to the wall 100 miles an hour with your content just because you're going to get burnout. You're going to get burnout. The team is going to get burnout. Your followers are going to get burnout. I would schedule once a day, maybe once every other day in the earlier days of the campaign. You don't want to get all of your platform out there, all of the information you have out there, because then at the end of the campaign, when you want to make a really high impact, everyone's heard it before. You have nothing new. So definitely get your strategy in place, get all of the tools in place, get your graphics and your branding and your brand voice and all of the stuff that you need to have for a good digital strategy, and get that in place as soon as possible. When it comes to like deploying and having the output, I would say take your time, maybe a month or so, use like that first month to get everything together and then start posting. Yeah, just as soon as possible.
Okay, besides Google Alerts, what do you recommend for a budget social listener?
Brand 24 is good. Is the one I use right now. Awario, that's the one I use actually for Vermin Supreme, is awario.com, AWARIO. I'll drop that in the chat.
Okay, and what do you think about IFTT and automated bots?
I love them. I actually don't use IFTTT, but I have used it in the past. Honestly, I just haven't had time to set it up. A little busy, but yeah, no, IFTTT is excellent. If you know how to set them up, they're wonderful. As many things as you can automate well, do it.
And can you explain what that is for candidates and campaign teams that have no familiarity with this?
Great. So IFTTT is basically an acronym for if this, then that. It's a program that you can use to set up to where like if this, then that. So if you have a post that goes on Facebook, then that post will go to Instagram, and you can set up that automation to where it will just, all you have to do is one thing that sets off the triggers, and then your post will go to Instagram, Twitter, and then you can even set it up to where it like sends out an email, like any kind of like sequence of automated events after you do one trigger. That's how you set that up. So it's, I think it's free. I haven't used it in a while, I can't remember, but just go to ifttt.com and I'll put that in the chat as well.
Okay. And do you have a walkthrough for Airtable? It seems to have elements of a workspace platform and does a lot more. What I would suggest is perhaps we set up another training where we go through some of these actual types of programs or tools, and we get into it there, because if we do a walkthrough on some of these tools, that's a whole nother deal. But I would also suggest, if you are wondering how to use something and use it effectively, Google how to on YouTube. There are people that walk you through like amazingly well on how to use these tools. So that's my usual go-to on that is, how to, and then right on YouTube, and they'll get it to you. How big of a team should a candidate have to optimize social media? Yes, it depends on district and that kind of stuff, or size of race, but what are some rules of thumb?
That's a loaded question. No, so it's good to have somebody on graphic design or somebody who knows the graphic design. It's really not about like the size of the team, but like the rules. So the minimum rules I would say is graphic design, community engagement. So somebody who is handling the inboxes and the comments and basically just engaging with people is really good. If you have a really small page, you can do this yourself, but it's a good role to have on its own, especially as you grow. And then you're going to have people, like multiple people in that role eventually too. So graphic design, community engagement, you want to have like people who are writers. It's a big need, having people who write well, editors, and then I'd say 4 people, 3 people minimum, but 4 to 5 optimum. And then you can scale upwards. So some of my teams are 30 people, some of my teams are 3 people. So it really just depends on your needs.
Okay. What do you feel when okay, so say you're in between campaign seasons. What are some of the best things to focus on to maintain awareness and grow your personal brand?
Well, it really depends on what your goals are in the future. So if you don't know what your goals are in the future, that's a perfectly okay place to be. I would just focus on what's trending. So like paying attention to things that other people care about and talking about those, putting your own spin on them is good. If you want to monetize, you would look into different monetizing strategies. So it could be a paid newsletter, it could be growing a YouTube following. If you want to teach people something, that would be good too. It's kind of what I started doing after the campaign season was over, is I started teaching. So just finding some like focus and direction of things, and then staying on top of trending issues is a good way to keep growing.
Okay, another question is, and this is in electoral politics, how do you feel about online surveying to collect data on what people think?
I love it so much, and you should absolutely do it.
I do too. So happy you said that.
Oh my God, yeah. So you can do text message surveys, you can do email surveys, you can do focus groups. There's so many things you can do. Yes, all the surveys, all the time.
Okay, and what do you feel about combining smart links and text messages to direct traffic to your social media?
Smart links, yes. Text messages, it depends. Because like you don't want to come off as spammy. You don't want people to like unsubscribe just because you're like, oh, there's no purpose to this. You want to drive people, like if you want to use text messages to drive people to social media, have a purpose behind it. Like, hey, we need you to vote in this poll, or we need you to get active or something. They have to feel like a emotional connection, or else they're not going to follow through with it. Like they have to care. There has to be some kind of purpose behind it, driving them to do the thing. Like you can't just ask people to do something. You have to give them a reason to want to. It's a pretty good principle for almost everything you do.
Okay, and I think we're going to do this last question, which is, what apps do you recommend in those spaces for like surveying and SMS?
I haven't. Oh man. So there's the call hub, which you can do texting and stuff. I can't remember what survey thing I used last time. Twilio. That's a good one for that. And then there is, I just sent it to somebody in Messenger last night and I need to remember what it's called. All right, outgrow.co. And I'll drop that in here.
Okay, and what was that again?
Outgrow.co.
Outgrow.
Yep. You can do all kinds of like built-in surveys, interactive content, stuff like, and text messages, smart links, all this stuff, and you can build it into anything that you have. But that one is fantastic.
Okay, Caitlin, I'm going to ask you, you have given out a ton of information. You've also given out a ton of links and apps. What I would ask, if you could you do a little list of some of the common apps that you use along with those links? And if you could send that to me, and then when I send out, and also I'll put it in the notes in the YouTube when we upload this to archive it. We'll get this out to the candidates and their campaign teams so that they have that list there. Because I know there's been a few I haven't heard of, so I'm excited and now I want to play around with them. And I assume that's probably true for other people. So I really appreciate this. Thank you so much for taking the time to go through this training with us and chat with us.
Absolutely. Now, if everyone could go to the event here in about 2 minutes, I'm going to have a sign up link for like my weekly newsletters. It has been a week or two since I sent one out, but to be honest, I've been traveling a lot and doing this, and I just got hired to be a campaign manager, so I got a little behind there. But one's going out Friday, and then I will have the link in the event in a couple minutes. I'm also going to have a packet of resources that everyone will have access to. And in about a month or so, I'm going to start my interactive digital marketing courses that are free as well. So
that sounds fantastic. Really appreciate it, Caitlin.